How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and today we actually have some Pokemon Winds and Waves leaks. So let's get started right away, kicking things off with this post right here, coming to us from none else than our boys over at PoriLeaks. I think it's PoriLeaks that tweeted this. Yes. So updates: Pokemon Winds and Waves leak tracker 3/16. So this was on the 16th. This was 2 days ago. I didn't post about it because I was going to wait and see if anything else came out, which didn't. Also, there's like an ice cream truck outside. By the way, here's what they say: there seems to be information currently circulating about Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves, specifically images. Now, this information is allegedly backed with multiple email chains and images, and the current online images were doctored. The current online images were doctored and were not showing the full details. The below is the unaltered original along with a file name of the image, and we see the file name is A_x64_develop_25031211729, and then a bunch of jargon, just numbers .jpg, and the image shows what seems to be a Blastoise. We see in the distance over here, if you guys can like pause and see, there is a little silhouette of a character in the distance, and we can see the big fella just kind of surfing, and yeah, of course, we have the little guy in the distance. So yeah, that's essentially what we see in this image. That's what's being shown. It is clearly Pokemon Winds and Waves, and it's most likely not fake, because it looks very similar, again, to a lot of the leaked data files we've seen in the past, the leaked information stuff from the past. So purely off of that information, we can pretty much establish that it's a real photo. Does it tell us much? Not really. It just shows us that Pokemon will be interacting with their environment, which is good. As we can see, the Blastoise is sort of, I guess, surfing kind of, or swimming in the swamp. I guess it's the swamp area, which we've seen in the trailer, the swamp area. So that looks to be what we're seeing here. As for why the character is silhouetted, that I do not know. I haven't seen anybody actually explain why that would be the case. Like, not a single person has actually said it. Even here, Centro even says, for some reason, they edited out the NPC from the screenshot, which, again, I don't get why. We can see the photo here again. Again, looks pretty much like Winds and Waves before its final release, like what it's going to look like, because even based on this, you can tell that there's something missing about the lighting. It looks like something about the lighting is not like the same way it was in the trailers, which I'm assuming is because this is an image which is an unreleased version of the game, which of course it is unreleased because the game's not coming out for another year. But also, I think it's a lot to do with the fact that this version, like, how do I say this properly, right? It, like, you can tell the shading is not like completed. You can see like some decent reflections and stuff. Like there's some like nice reflections on his face or whatever, but in terms of like lighting, the rest of the scene just looks like it's missing some lighting, right? And I'm assuming it's gonna look better again by the end, because this is just a photo that was yoinked from somewhere, an early photo that clearly we shouldn't take as, being the end all be all, so to say. So just keep that in mind. That is pretty much the first thing, and that's pretty much all we can say about that. Also, if you guys do not know, by the way, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is actually now out on Nintendo Switch. If you have Nintendo Switch Online and also have the expansion pack, you can go and play this game. It's going to be emulated, of course. There's no extra stuff added, and I don't think it has any home connectivity, so you'll not be able to connect it to Pokemon Home. You'll just be able to play it and just enjoy it for what it is, in case you were going to play it for like that reason. Also, the game is actually really good if you want to go shiny hunting, because there are a few really hard shiny hunts you can go for, which is worthwhile. So yeah, that's now out, in case anybody was curious about that. Also, according to Amashinu, a new trailer for Pokemon Champions will drop in 2 weeks prior to the Nintendo Switch release next month. The mobile release is still delayed. Source leaker Billy, probably on the 25th of this month. So that trailer, according to that, would happen this day next week. So Wednesday on the 25th is when they're saying that it's going to happen. But I guess at this point we're just waiting, because we know there's also a patch coming out, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's also supposed to be a patch that's supposed to be coming out for Pokopia, which we don't have yet. So we're just waiting for that too. But yes, so we're probably going to get a Champions. I mean, we need a Champions trailer for the release date to happen this month, because that game is coming out next month and there's no info. Also today, like I said, the fact that like XD Gale of Darkness came out on a Wednesday actually kind of lines up perfectly with when they could do another trailer, like Wednesday next week. So then they're doing something every week. That perfectly lines up, perfectly matches, doesn't feel too far-fetched in terms of timing and all that. So that's definitely something to look out for. Just definitely keep your eyes sort of peeled and pay attention to things as they come and go, because there will be stuff, you know, that will pop up as time goes on, just randomly when you least expect it. But yeah, also a good post here by Champ Libre says, I find this leak quite interesting. The torque, and also, by the way, they clearly bumped up the vibrance on this image on the left here, because the original image does not have that level of vibrance. But yeah, you can see here, though, even with just bumping up the vibrance a little bit, the image looks so much better. But I'm pretty sure the game's going to look much different when the final release comes out, like better, I would assume. Again, these are images that are not final, so I mean, again, even this is not final. It's what we got shown in the trailer, but this is from a beta release, so that's just not to be taken as final. But he says here, the Blastoise looks like it's a rather stylish animation on the water, which, yes, it looks like it's actually surfing on top of the water or something, which is pretty neat. It shows that they're continuing to improve all the Pokemon animations for winds and waves so that all the Pokemon interact coherently with their environment, which is the biggest thing. The thing with Pokemon is, oftentimes, especially in some of the older games, there was not really, like, any sort of, like when we had wild grass encounters, right? Like when you had to go into the tall grass to find a Pokemon. Then there was a random encounter, but then we started getting these static encounters, or overworld encounters, that were, well, you know, static-ish, but kind of meant to be dynamic or whatever. But like, oftentimes the Pokemon will just clump up and just walk around in their regular walk cycle, with very few Pokemon having unique animations. I wouldn't say like the most unique stuff I saw was probably something like, what was it called again? I forget the name of it, like Spidops or whatever, like its pre-evolutions and all that, like Tarantula, whatever. That thing has an interesting thing because it hangs from trees in Scarlet and Violet, but then most of the Pokemon don't have any unique thing going on with them. They're just kind of floating around or just kind of standing around. But if they make Pokemon interact with the environment around them in unique ways, even with Blastoise, like if this boy's just surfing on the freaking water like surface, that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty awesome. Like that actually makes him far more like realistic, if that makes sense. It makes the entire Pokemon feel far more like real, if that makes any sense to you guys. But yeah, so that's the image for the beta that we've seen again. And yeah, it's just saying, like, it looks like they're trying their best. Seemingly, it shows that they're continuing to improve in the animations. What do you reckon, Game Freak, you're trying to test in the beta based on the screenshots? Again, we don't really know. We'll have to wait and see what it is that they're trying to do. Also, by the way, a new poster featuring the main starters for Legends ZA. Main video games from Legends ZA. Okay, well, that's incorrect order of words, but basically, we do have a little promo here for Pokemon Winds and Waves. As you can see, there's a little promo showing the art again, and of course, we have the same art from the official website here for the starters. I don't think this is Korokoro. This is Nintendo Dream, which is a different magazine, but yeah. That's just that. Just quickly wanted to show that in case anybody hasn't seen it, in case you were curious about it. Also, some other people have been talking about the leaked beta screenshots. As you can see, another leak screenshot has surfaced, Wind and Waves. Obviously, the final game won't look like what's in the screenshot. If nothing else, it's an interesting peek behind the curtains. What's interesting is the screenshot was taken during a point in the development when it was still targeting Nintendo Switch instead of Switch 2. Below is the latest beta screenshot, and of course, you guys have already seen it. Just wondering where the screenshot comes from. It's the same Game Freak data leaker or Terra leaker that took place in 2024. We have a few extra images that were just shared before the reveal. Of course, we guys may have seen those in the past. We've already talked about them. You guys see one of them right here. These are all also beta images, like very early development stuff. I mean, even here, you can see that already back then, they were going to focus very heavily on the water. Like, just making the water in this game look just molto bene, you know? Just very, very good. You can clearly see that they were going ham on that shit. I hope that that's not going to be like all they spent their time on, just making it look nice. Like, obviously, I want these games to look nice, right? Obviously. And the only issue is, like, this is something that I quantify in such a way. Pokemon games don't need to look hyper-realistic. And I've said this a million times, and I'll keep saying this. And if anybody argues with me and says, you never said that, screw you. But basically, my point is, I've always said that Pokemon games don't need to be looking hyper-realistic. They need to look consistent. If the game is not consistent in how it looks, like, let's say if, like, all the Pokemon look super good, like, good reflections and shit, but then the walls in the buildings look like paper, cardboard cutouts, right? That's jarring because it's not a consistent art style, right? You need something that looks consistent and feels alive, right? How do you get that? Well, you make a world that feels alive. You don't just add a bunch of buildings you can't enter and make them look like cardboard cutouts or like you're just window shopping by looking at stuff. If you make a store, let us enter the store without a loading screen. Let us enter a store in the game and buy our clothes looking at them, you know? Like, it's these kinds of things where, like, I feel like Pokemon really struggles to make a consistent world, first of all, without a bunch of loading screens, but also a consistent world visually. It doesn't look visually consistent. So I'm hoping, clearly based on what we've seen from the trailer, the game looks good. It looks solid. It doesn't look like hyper mega realistic, but it looks like they're trying to make it look better. Like, just the underwater section looks amazing already. Like, just even from these early leaks, it looked good. So who knows what it's going to look like a year from now when the game actually comes. Actually, almost like 2 years, because we don't even know when it's coming out in 2027. It could be early 2027 or most likely late 2027. And if it's a late 2027, then that's like almost 2 years from now. So we like you gotta go the entire of this year and the entirety of next year. That's almost 2 extra years of them to work on this game, to get more work done, to get stuff done, etc., which really adds a lot to, like, the, you know, like, it just adds a lot, okay? It just adds a lot to expectations, right? So I'm hoping the game looks good, but more importantly, that it's a consistent visual style, and more than anything else, for me, I just hope that they didn't do only graphics and zero content. I feel like that's most important for me, is that there's stuff to do in this world. If it's just a pretty looking world, what's the point of it, right? We need, like, the world to feel alive. We need the world to actually feel like it's inhabited by Pokemon and people. We need things to do out there, you know, things to go and explore and find and spend time on. I think that's what Pokopia does really well. Pokopia is a consistently visually looking game. It doesn't need to be hyper realistic. It does its job perfectly, but it gives you so much to do. There's so many things to do, and it's not things that they just kind of like, it's not like a Ubisoft thing. If you guys don't get what I mean when I say Ubisoft thing, what Ubisoft does with their games is they'll make a bunch of Ubisoft games, and they'll add a million waypoints and things for you to do on the map. But the thing is, it's not fun things to do. It's stuff that's just busy work, right? It's just to keep you busy so they can get that playtime higher, so they can tell their investors, hey, people spend 10 hours a day playing our games. You know, but that's not fun. What's fun is if you make a world that's interesting and fun to explore, and you make the progression feel like an intrinsic part of exploration, right? So I think Pokopia does that perfectly. I think Pokopia perfectly makes you go around exploring, finding, and it feels like you're constantly making progress. You're discovering lore about the game, you're moving the story forward, you're interacting with Pokemon, the world feels consistent. That is the most important thing. So I hope that they do spend some time actually taking a lot of lessons and learning lessons from Pokopia, because I feel like it shows perfectly shows what it should be like. But again, that's just your boy speaking. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know. Maybe I'm just yapping. But yeah, that's just my thought process on that. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. Also, here are some points coming to us from Soul Silver in regards to some stuff, actually, which says, will there be a big gameplay change between the versions of Pokemon Winds and Waves? Now, this is talking about, like, will there be differences between playing the Pokemon Winds version and Waves version? Because if you have seen, the only differences we've seen so far is the fact that you most likely will have a different Pikachu based on the game, like a partner Pikachu that joins you, or like a guide Pikachu, like the Mr. Windy Chew and Miss Wavy Chew. Those will be different based on the game version you choose. So Windy Chew probably going to be for Winds version, and Miss Wavy Chew going to be for Pokemon Waves version. And then the other thing is your actual outfits, right? Now, I'll be honest. I think Pokemon versions are the dumbest, biggest scam in existence, okay? It is an arbitrary thing they do just to make people buy 2 versions, because some people don't have friends and have to buy both versions to be able to trade with themselves. So, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I think it's a scam. I think it's a big scam. Back in the day, they also did it because it would just sell really well, and then they could also advertise the whole link cable connection thing so people could play with each other, right? But, like, there is no reason for, in today's time and age, to actually have this feature, or rather have 2 versions. You don't technically need it, as proven by Pokemon games like Legends Arceus, Legends ZA, as proven by literally any Pokemon game that isn't double versions, okay? You can easily do one single version, but they do it because it sells more. It sells more. It gives people that feeling of needing to make a choice. It gives people that feeling of, ooh, I want this one because this one is a color that more appeals to me, you know, or ooh, I want this one because, oh, that legendary is so much better, you know. I think it's a ripoff, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think. It's, you know, if people want it, people want it. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it is kind of it's a little cheeky way to get extra money. It's a little cheeky way to double dip. Just saying, but also it forces you to have to interact with other people or go online and spend money to do the online, which that's kind of the part where I don't enjoy it. I feel like if the games just had a way for you to get all the Pokemon without having to trade, it would be nice, because in the sense of like, you know, at least then you don't have to like pay more to be able to complete the game fully, because a lot of people do want to complete the Pokédex, and some people, like I as a kid had no one to trade with, so I had to sort of just do everything myself, and I could never complete my Pokédex because I never could. I never had any way of trading with anyone because I didn't have a link cable. I didn't have any friends who played the game, so it was impossible. And also if they don't bring back like something like Wonder Trade or the GTS, like a global trade system for people to trade, and especially now because the people will not be able to like use, you know, systems like sysbots and all that, like to hack in Pokemon with PK Hex, because hacking is not even possible in the Switch 2 at the moment. It's just, you know. But here's what he has to say though. The post has been deleted, but a user was asking, what is the purpose of 2 separate versions of Winds and Waves in 2026? A good question for Winds and Waves specifically, as this might be the first time we see a big distinction of the protagonists in their respective versions. See, this, I hope that they actually make a reason, an actual reason for you to get the 2 versions. I really hope. Okay, I really hope, because right now there's never been a good reason. It's always been arbitrary. It's been a made up reason, and people still buy into it. But I hope that now they actually add a reason for you to buy both versions, like an actual experience that's different. Now, the Waves protagonist has a plastic backpack so that the contents won't get wet while diving, while the Winds protagonist has many pockets and very explorer vibes altogether. In their introduction clip, they even specifically show the Winds protagonist traversing the land and jungle by foot, while the Waves looks to be ready to travel the water. So, will we only be able to dive in Waves and only fly or go to the specific jungle in Winds? Well, what they could do and what they might do is, they might, like in Winds version, they might limit you to like, you might not be able to go into diving or water early in the game, but you'll be able to fly early in the game. And then it's vice versa for Waves, where you can go in the water early, but you cannot go into the sky and fly early. So kind of like splitting the game into 2 halves and then like swapping between them, right? But yeah, either way. Continue on, but there, let's see, probably not both of them have wetsuits, but maybe the wetsuit could also be like a skydiving suit, but maybe there's a really big difference between versions. Maybe we gain access to diving in Waves early than in Waves. That's literally what I said, and vice versa. Or maybe there's a specific reason we can only go in Winds, and we can't go in Waves in the sky. I think no matter what, it'll all be available eventually, RIP whatever it is, the Winds backpack when it gets underwater, but I think these are big enough distinctions to be curious about there being bigger version differences to 2027. I hope so, because so far they have shown differences in the sense of one game you have Mr. Windy Chew, the other game you have Miss Wavy Chew, so those are going to be split, those 2 Pikachus, so if that matters to you. There's obviously going to be the legendary version differences. There's obviously going to be character looking differences because the characters have different outfits slightly between Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves. We saw that. So there is differences. It's just a matter of how big are they really and how important are those differences realistically speaking, right? Like that's the big one. And then finally, we have this analysis and speculation from Pokemon Millennium, and this is about the whole Zeus thing. Now, if you guys do not know, there was this tweet that came out from Ball Guy who posted a picture of Zeus as a reply to somebody asking him, based on what we've already seen, that can only be Winds and Waves DLC, codename LOL, and then he posted a picture of Zeus, and then it was in reference to this project called Project Karasu, and he said, before this week's announcements, let's take a moment to look forward to the next mainline project, Project Karasu. But that's a mainline project, not necessarily a DLC. So when he says DLC, he says, no, DLC is most likely codename Zeus. That would be the DLC. So Project Karasu is something else, which I speculate Project Karasu is a Legends Johto game, because Karasu is like, if I'm not mistaken, that is a crow, like in Japanese. I think that's crow in Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong. I think it's a crow or a raven or whatever. I think. I could be completely wrong here. I think it is. But Project Karasu, he shows a picture of Murkrow, which of course is from Johto. So I personally think it's going to be a Johto Legends game. We know that they were working on a Johto Legends Galar game, which I'll have a whole video about that, by the way. I'm going to post an entire video about that. But basically he replied with Zeus, which made a lot of people wonder, okay, well, maybe the Zeus thing is the DLC for this game. So Millennium says the following: analysis and speculation from Gaia to Zeus. Now, the code names of Gen 10 projects seem to reference figures from ancient Greek mythology. That wouldn't be the first time a Pokemon game has used references from cultures different from the region's main inspiration. Just think of Sinnoh and its biblical references. Not just that, also think about Kalos and its Nordic, Viking gods and whatnot, and Viking mythology and Norse mythology. Now, in Winds and Waves, in the case of Winds and Waves, we have Gaia, which is the code name of the game, of the actual game, and Gaia, of course, being the Earth Mother, the creator of all, the origin of everything, right? Is a codename, and Zeus is the codename of the DLC, according to Ball Guy. Right now, if we bring the other Greek mythology figures connected to Gaia and Zeus, we can start speculating about the structure, what the Pokemon Winds and Waves adventure might look like. To do that, we also need two more figures, that being Typhoon and Poseidon. Now, Typhoon, don't know if it's actually an actual name, but is the son of Gaia, bringer of chaos, storms, and violent winds. And Poseidon is the brother of Zeus and the ruler of the sea. Now, and to that, we add Gaia and Zeus. Now, Gaia, the origin of everything, the primordial source from which all things emerge, is basically Mother Earth herself, okay? And then Zeus, king of the gods, the deity who governs weather phenomena. Zeus defeated Typhoon in a battle, right? So, it could be possible that we have two besides the two box legendaries, which are like the small ones, we could have like a third one. The Typhoon one could be essentially like what? Le bad guy, and then Zeus is le good guy. This is where the Gen 10 project starts to come together. Following that mythological hierarchy, we have this. Level 0, Gaia, the source. Gaia is the matrix, the primordial entity from which everything is born. It's the code name of the entire Gen 10 project because it represents its source. Most likely the source of the Majin gimmick lies in the ancestral force. Level 1 is the storm. So the two cover legendaries, Wind, Typhoon, and Wave, Poseidon, possibly, represent the active forces competing for dominance while also maintaining the world's balance, which is possible. Or they could be still also they could twist this. They don't necessarily have to go exactly with real life mythology. They can use inspirations for it, because I still think that Mr. Wavy Chew and Mr. Windy Chew and Miss Wavy Chew, I think those two are the legendaries. I think they're secretly transforming themselves to look like just two Pikachus, to hang around and try to find a Pokemon trainer to do something in this region, to help it, save it, something, right? And the two of them are going to reveal themselves towards the end of the game, probably in the story to you, and then you'll find out that they're the box legendary. I feel like that's kind of a good theory still that I've seen and that I kind of agree with, but maybe I'm wrong. Now, Zeus is a level 2. Now, why would the DLC be called Zeus? Well, in mythology, Zeus is the one who defeated Typhoon and established order. He's in raw power, he's authority and order. Zeus represents the end of the storm, the lightning bolt that tears through the clouds and restores equilibrium. Now, we should also remember that Zeus's lightning is physically tied to the meeting of air and water, discharging towards the earth. In that sense, it becomes a perfect synthesis of Gen 10's 3 key elements. Earth, winds, waves, I don't know. So the DLC may not just be an extra chapter. Actually, no, it's lightning there. But the true process of resolution that closes Gen 10's narrative. So what do you think? Could this be the right lens through which to read Gen 10? I think it's a good one. I think it's a good theory. But that's just me. Maybe I'm just wrong. I personally think it's a solid theory. I think it makes sense. But again, there is so many things and questions. I'm obviously not going to go 100% just exactly like this. But something along the lines of this makes sense. So, yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for today's video, guys. I don't think I have anything else to mention for today. I think that's it for now. And I will see you all probably in the next video, which is going to be about Pokemon Legends Galar, I think. So I'll see you then. Have a great day. And bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.